Have you ever come across someone, a figure who just completely reshaped a country's culture, but maybe, their name isn't instantly familiar? Today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly that kind of person. An extraordinary life, a real polymath whose influence on Scotland, well, it runs incredibly deep.
We certainly are. We're talking about James Hamish Scott Henderson, born 1919, passed away in 2002. And just think about this range. Scottish poet, songwriter, a committed communist, a deep intellectual, and a decorated soldier. I mean, the sheer breadth of his experience, his impact, it's truly remarkable.
Yeah, it really is. And for this dive, we've sifted through quite a pile of sources, comprehensive biographies, academic analyses of his life, his work, and maybe the most exciting part, details from his own personal archives, loads of them. It almost feels like piecing together a kind of hidden history, bit by surprising bit.
Absolutely. And our mission really is to unpack the key insights from Henderson's life. We want to show his, well, often surprising impact, how multifaceted it was, touching everything from, say, wartime intelligence and political thought, right through to the bedrock of Scottish folk music and, national identity itself. Crucial stuff.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. His birth itself feels kind of significant, doesn't it? Hamish Henderson, born on the very first Armistice Day, November 11th, 1919, in Blairgowrie, Perthshire, and born to a single mother, Janet Henderson. She was a Queen's nurse.
Which was essentially a highly dedicated community nurse, right? Serving the public.
Exactly. His father, we know, was an army officer, James Scott.
So after those early years up in Scotland, he actually moved down to England with his mother. He attended Lendrick School. And then a real turning point. His mother passed away in 1933. The headmaster there, James McLaren, he became his guardian.
Oh.
And that really paved the way, Yeah. Got him a scholarship to Dulwich College in London, which is quite prestigious. And later, he studied modern languages at Downing College, Cambridge. This is just in those crucial years leading up to World War II.
Right. But it's what he was doing before the war, isn't it? That really gives you a clue about the kind of person he'd become. As a visiting student over in Germany, he wasn't just, observing. He was actively running messages for this group linked to the Society of Friends.
Yeah, that's pretty risky stuff.
Totally. Helping the German resistance, helping rescue Jews from the Nazis. I mean, what does that early activism tell us about him, really?
Oh, it's absolutely crucial. I mean, this wasn't just some youthful idealism. It shows a real independence of spirit, an unwavering commitment, to the underdog, to justice, and a real intellectual engagement with very urgent political situations. This hands-on, pretty dangerous work in Germany, it really forged his path, didn't it?
Yeah.
Shaped how he approached things later on.
So, given his commitment to peace, helping the resistance, it's fascinating how his path then changes during World War II. He initially argued for peace, but then he seemed to get convinced that, peace wasn't possible without getting involved directly. What made him jump into the war effort, and what sort of role did he end up playing? It wasn't straightforward, was it?
No, it speaks to his pragmatism, I think, and his conviction. He joined up as an enlisted soldier, actually, in the Pioneer Corps, which was mostly, non-combatant labor stuff.
Right.
But then he got a commission in the Intelligence Corps. And his language skills command of 6 European languages, plus, maybe more importantly, his deep grasp of German culture. Well, it made him a remarkably effective interrogator.
Wow, 6 languages.
Yeah. He was involved in the Desert War in Africa, and then this really pivotal moment. He personally oversaw the drafting of Italy's surrender order by Marshal Rodolfo Graziani himself, May 2nd, 1945. Just think about being in that room.
Incredible. And it was during that Desert War period he wrote his really acclaimed poetry collection, Elegies for the Dead and Cyrenaica. It won him the Somerset Maugham Award in 1948. What was it about these poems? Why did they hit so hard?
Well, they captured sort of every aspect of a soldier's life out there in the desert, but not in a grand, heroic way. Critics consistently picked up on their compassion and sincerity. They called them poems of passive suffering, stoicism. They were just celebrated for this deep empathy, this unflinching look at the human cost of war. It was about the quieter internal struggles, which was quite a fresh take back then.
And what about his songs from the war? There's this collection, Ballads of World War II. The story behind that is pretty interesting, too, isn't it? Not a standard publication.
Not at all. This book was actually published privately, and that was deliberate to get around the wartime censors.
Clever.
Very. But it had this unexpected side effect.
Yeah.
It got Henderson banned from BBC Radio for 10 years.
No way.
Yeah. The collection had these powerful, often quite satirical songs. Things like the lyrics to D-Day Dodgers, which were attributed to Lance Sergeant Harry Penn, and Henderson's own lyrics for the 51st Highland Division's Farewell to Sicily. He even cheekily put his own work in later anthologies listed as anonymous, just to make sure they survived.
Huh. That really sums him up, doesn't it? That sort of rebellious spirit. And there's that amazing story, isn't there, from that time that just perfectly shows his connection to the ordinary soldiers, the power of those songs. When the Highland Division marched through Tripoli, they just routed Rommel's army. The troops were famously belting out this bawdy song, the Ballo Kirimir.
Oh, yeah.
And Churchill was there taking the salute. Apparently he was totally bewildered at first, but then, cottoned on and was apparently quite delighted. It just speaks volumes about that informal culture.
Exactly. It shows how deep those songs went,
Wow.
Part of the troops' morale, their identity.
Yeah.
And Henderson, as the chronicler, he just got it. He understood that voice, amplified it.
So after the war, Henderson shifts gears. He throws all this energy into something else that would really define a huge part of his legacy, the Scottish folk revival. Having documented the songs of war, how did he become such a key figure, a catalyst, really, in sparking this whole cultural movement?
Well, his dedication was just total. He was absolutely instrumental in discovering and then bringing to public notice these incredible, often unknown traditional performers, people like Jeannie Robertson, Flora McNeil, Caleb Johnston, just amazing voices.
Right.
And then in the 50s, he played this crucial role guiding the American folklorist Alan Lomax, the famous one, helping him collect loads of his field recordings across Scotland, preserving this absolute treasure trove of culture.
And this sort of leads up to a really groundbreaking event, doesn't it? The Edinburgh People's Festival Ceilidhs in 1951. Why was that particular night, a night of Scottish song, so important?
Well, if you put it in context, the People's Festival itself, it was deliberately set up as a kind of left-wing alternative, a competitor to the main Edinburgh Festival.
Okay.
And this Ceilidh was just revolutionary because it put traditional Scottish folk music slap bang onto a public stage for the very first time, really. Before that, it was mostly, private gatherings, maybe academic study. And Henderson himself performed his song, the John Maclean March there, honoring John Maclean, who was this celebrated figure, communist, Scottish nationalist hero.
So a bit political then, and it wasn't all smooth sailing, was it? There was controversy.
Oh, far from smooth sailing. The whole festival was seen as deeply controversial. It actually got canceled in 1954 because of perceived communist ties.
Yeah.
The Labour Party even declared it a proscribed organization, basically, officially banned.
Wow.
Yeah. But despite all that political heat, the event itself, that Ceilidh, was incredibly popular. And it's widely seen now as marking the real start of the second folk revival in Scotland.
Yeah.
It was this clear public declaration that this music mattered. And it just resonated.
It's amazing how one event can just ignite something like that. And his impact was so deep that his own songs, particularly Freedom Come All Ye, they sort of melted into the tradition, didn't they? They're now considered part of the folk canon themselves. What does that tell us about his lasting influence?
It says so much about his ability to just tap right into the soul of Scottish identity. His songs weren't just, popular hits. They articulated the hopes, the experiences of ordinary people in a way that felt totally authentic, timeless even. I mean, for your own songs to become indistinguishable from the tradition you helped revive.
Yeah.
Well, that's the ultimate testament, isn't it, to his artistry, his connection.
So let's shift to Henderson's later life then. He eventually settles down in Edinburgh in 59 with his German wife, Ketzel. And from 1955 right through to 1987, he has this long academic career at the University of Edinburgh's School of Scottish Studies. What was his work there like? What was the significance?
Oh, his work at the uni was massive. Foundational, really. He undertook this huge amount of collection work. He created these vital links between different traditional communities that maybe didn't always connect. The traveling people, the Bothy singers.
Bothy singers?
Yeah, they were farm laborers, basically, who sang traditional songs in their communal bunkhouses, the Bothys.
Got it.
And border shepherds, too. His efforts just made sure their songs, their stories, were properly documented, preserved. He contributed hugely to sound archives like Tobar and Dulcie's The Well of Heritage. He wasn't just studying culture, he was actively saving it.
And beyond just collecting, his intellectual work was pretty profound too, especially his translation of Antonio Gramsci's Prison Letters. Why was that such a key thing for Henderson? What was it about Gramsci's ideas that clicked with him so much?
Right, the Gramsci translation. It wasn't just, an academic exercise for him. It felt like a revelation. Gramsci, the Italian Marxist thinker, he had this big idea about cultural hegemony, how power isn't just about force, it's about shaping beliefs, what seems like common sense. Through culture, through songs, stories, traditions.
Okay.
Henderson first heard about Gramsci from Italian partisans during the war, and he instantly saw the parallels. Gramsci's Sardinian background, the political, the cultural struggles there. He saw echoes in Scotland's own situation, especially around nationalism. Gramsci's focus on popular culture, on language, it gave Henderson this really powerful framework. It helped him understand how folk music, shared stories could be real tools for social change, for building national identity. It fed directly into his folk revival work.
Ah, I see. So that intellectual underpinning connects directly to his activism for Scotland. Beyond the academic stuff, what kind of political actions was he involved in?
Yeah, he was deeply involved in campaigns for Scottish home rule, pushing for more self-governance. He also played a pretty significant role in founding the Scottish Labour Party back in the 1970s, helping shape its early direction. He wasn't just an observer. He was definitely in the political mix.
And on a more personal level, quite progressive for his time, too, wasn't he?
Absolutely. Henderson was openly bisexual, and he was a vocal supporter of gay rights and acceptance. This was at a time when that was, well, far less common and certainly carried more risk. It just shows his consistent courage, really, his conviction across the board.
And there's that really powerful story from 1983. It seems to capture that rebellious streak perfectly. What happened then that struck such a chord with people in Scotland?
Right. 1983, he gets voted Scot of the Year by Radio Scotland listeners.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just for his lifetime of work. It was because he very publicly turned down an OBE, the Order of the British Empire, a major honor. He did it in protest against the Thatcher government's policy on nuclear weapons. It was this huge public act of conscience. Showed he'd put his beliefs into action, whatever the personal cost. And yeah, that really resonated with a lot of Scots. A real moment.
What an incredible life we've traced. Hamish Henderson, war poet, folk catalyst, political firebrand, academic. Just wow. A truly multifaceted force, a real dynamo in Scottish culture.
Yeah, his legacy is just undeniable, isn't it? His massive personal archive, we're talking over 10,000 letters, 136 notebooks. Edinburgh University acquired it all. So his work keeps informing, keeps inspiring new generations. And he's still incredibly relevant in discussions about Scottish identity today. I mean, his song Freedom Come All Ye is seriously talked about as an alternative national anthem.
So as we wrap up, here's something fascinating that often came up around him. This idea of his possible aristocratic lineage. Some people apparently even called him one of the wandering kings of Scotland, which creates this really interesting tension, doesn't it? Between that idea, him having maybe royal or aristocratic blood, and his entire life's work, which was all about identifying with the common person, the every man and every woman.
It does.
What does that reveal about him, or maybe even about Scotland itself?
It leaves us with a really interesting question for you, the listener, to think about. What does it actually mean for one person to embody so many different layers of a nation's identity? Soldier, poet, socialist, song collector, academic, activist, and for their own personal story, with all its complexities, maybe even contradictions, to resonate so deeply with the collective soul of a whole country.